Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. In today's video, we've got multiple news items to discuss, including remarks from a veteran NASCAR announcer about Chase Elliott and his comments at Darlington about Throwback Weekend, with the announcer comparing the Hendrick Motorsports driver to a Winnie the Pooh character and questioning Elliott for being the sport's most popular driver. Denny Hamlin has not been one to shy away from commenting on Fox's broadcast in the past. Well, he did just that this week on his Actions Detrimental podcast. And interestingly enough, Richard Petty, who had some critical remarks of his own on the network's broadcast during his appearance in the Fox broadcast booth on Sunday, doubled down on those remarks yesterday on the family's YouTube channel. Also, yesterday, Dale Earnhardt Jr. had the Athletics' Jordan Bianchi sitting in with him on the Dale Jr. download. And there were a couple of topics of note, including revealing the record-breaking going rate for charters these days, and Junior talked about the Lamar Jackson number 8 legal issue and how Teresa Earnhardt factored into the process. Also in today's video, we have our By the Numbers segment, where we're going to take a look at Jeff Gluck's Good Race poll and the results from this past weekend's race at Darlington and how it compares to the rest of the season. We'll also have our last 5 races analysis and the new and improved race progression graphs. Just wait and see what I'm talking about. However, before we get into crunching the numbers, let's go back to yesterday and some comments I heard listening to SiriusXM NASCAR radio during the morning drive show. Mike Bagley and Pete Pistone were talking about Throwback Weekend and the thoughts of multiple drivers. Naturally, Chase Elliott's remarks were a focal point. Here's a reminder of what the 2020 champ had to say on Saturday.
Do you feel like this weekend has lost its luster over time?
I thought it lost it about 4 or 5 years ago, so I was way too early to that conversation, I think. But not to be a downer, but look, I joked about this before, years ago. But like, if we kept going down the road, we're going to be throwing it back to me in like 2018. So at some point, I think we gotta chill on it a little bit. I think we've rode the horse to death, and we tend to do that a little bit too much.
On the radio show, the subject of the segment was what should be done with Throwback Weekend going forward. And that's where there was an interesting exchange between Pistone and his producer, Sammy Agee.
I will say, I feel like Chase is getting like a little bit too much hate on us.
I agree.
I think he is.
No, hold on. Let me interrupt you because I said it, right? This is my take.
I'm not saying that you
No,
were.
I don't hate him. I just feel like he always comes off being like, someone called him the Eeyore of NASCAR on X. I kind of don't disagree with that. I mean, I want people to be themselves. And if he's not, like you say, not Sam Kinison, I get it. But why yuck someone's yum? And I kind of always feel when he's asked the question, he's like, oh, well, okay, whatever. And that's how it came across to me when they asked him the question.
But he was asked the question, and he answered it how he answered it truthfully. And whether you like his answer or not,
how is that the sport's most popular driver that he's like, oh, this really sucks?
That's a fair opinion. That's fair.
I gotta be honest, I couldn't help but laugh when I heard the comment about Eeyore. What a visual. Moving on to our next story, and it happened on Monday during Denny Hamlin's Actions Detrimental podcast. Of course, he talked about his second win in as many weeks after his pit crew stole the victory for him at Darlington. But he also made a comment, and one that I've seen online a lot lately, about audio issues with the Fox telecast. Take a listen.
Is Fox's audio up for anyone else? Like, I notice I have in my living room and in my bus multiple speakers, right? I have a TV, and then I have not really surround sound, but just like speakers, a left and a right. But the audio during our races only comes out of the right speaker. Like, do they have? It's like it's on analog. Analog, yeah, analog radio. I don't know. I've noticed it for a few weeks that they've got something going on with their audio that's just not like all other audio coming through Fox or any other station for that matter. So I don't know what's going on.
Now, I haven't had any of these issues personally with my own television, but I know that others have. I'd really be curious to hear about your experiences in the comment section. Sticking with Fox's coverage and the criticism of it, that takes me back to Richard Petty. The King called out the network's coverage during his appearance in the Fox broadcast booth on Sunday.
The big deal is when I'm sitting here and see what I see on TV, and the race is really back about 15th or 20th, them guys, they drive their fanny off every lap. They're really racing back there, but, you know, it's, if you're here, you can see that. You can't see it on TV.
Well, yesterday on the Petty Family Racing YouTube channel, he doubled down on his previous remarks.
You know, you watch on TV, then it's hard for them to get off the front runners to get back to where the race is. So you have to go to the racetrack itself to really see the racing, because it don't show the real race on TV.
The King has spoken twice. Also yesterday, I was listening to the Dell Jr. download, and there were two real items of note. The Athletic's Jordan Bianchi was a guest on the show, and they talked about the news that he broke last week on how Legacy Motor Club is suing Rick Ware Racing over the charter it bought. And Bianchi followed up with this little nugget.
Do you know how much Legacy paid Rick Ware for the charter? $45 million, which would be a new high in this sport.
That was one interesting item during the podcast. The other more compelling one for me was Junior talking about the Lamar Jackson legal issue with the number 8 that made headlines last week. On Tuesday, Earnhardt detailed what happened and interestingly brought up Teresa Earnhardt and how she played a role in the overall process.
The 8 trademark situation with Lamar Jackson, and I think it's kind of cleared up now at this point, but to kind of give a timeline, if you will, when we learned that the Budweiser number 8 trademark is not going to be continued and renewed by Teresa. And we were a bit surprised by that because she kept the one trademark. But haven't talked to Teresa, don't know why that was her decision, but we saw an opportunity to pick up the number, see if we could get the trademark. Without the trademark, we can run the number. Anyone can. We can use the number, no problem. Did we have a trademark for the current number 8 Junior Motorsports number that we've been running since 2019? No, there was no trademark for that number. So we filed for the Bud 8 trademark. We have successfully succeeded in that process. We also, as a backup plan, filed for the trademark on the Junior Motorsports number 8 that Josh Berry and all those guys have been running for the last couple of years. That was sort of a plan B, because we assumed that this Bud 8 thing might get murky or might not even happen at all. And so we filed for the other number. When we're like, as I said, we're sort of right on top of the finish line in closing out the trademark rights for the Bud 8. And in doing that, at some point, we would probably abandon the application for the Junior Motorsports 8. We just hadn't done that. Well, I learned on social media about the same time as everybody else did that Lamar was contesting our trademark application. He wasn't suing me. He's just contesting it, and there's a part of the trademark process where if you believe somebody's applying for a trademark and it's going to hurt your brand, you can oppose it, right, and say, hey, I need y'all to look at this first. And what happens is our application for our trademark would stop, and the board would check out what Lamar's concerned about and agree or disagree, and then the process would then pick up and continue. Well, when I learned about it, I thought for sure it was over the Bud 8. But when I dug into it, I learned that it was that Junior Motorsports font. And we weren't ever going to use that again, ever. And so after some conversations with Kelly and our team, they're like, yeah, we're going to abandon that. And so, yeah, it's not an issue. It's a non-issue. And so
much ado about nothing.
Much ado about nothing. So, yeah, in a few minutes, and the next day, actually, we filed the paperwork to abandon the acquisition of that trademark for the Junior Motorsports 8. And, yeah, we got what we wanted, and we're down the road. I was not going to argue with Lamar over something that I didn't plan on using, and I wasn't going to spend, thousands of dollars with my lawyers to fight for something that I didn't need.
I still have to wonder why she kept the number 1 and let go of the number 8. Any theories? Let me know in the comments. And lastly, it's time for our By the Numbers segment. Remember, all graphics are courtesy of my friend Joel Steuben, and they can be found on stube.com. The first thing we're going to talk about this week is Jeff Gluck's Good Race poll. I actually meant to start talking about it last week, but forgot. I enjoy looking at these polls and getting a feel for what the fans think of a race. I don't always agree with the majority, but that's okay. We can agree to disagree. Now, taking a look at this week's poll, and as you can see, Darlington didn't get a favorable overall rating, with less than half of the fan base thinking it was a good race at 45.9%. According to Gluck, it was the lowest Darlington race in the poll out of 16, with a previous low at 71.6% in 2018. It was also the lowest race of 2025 so far, beating out last week's Martinsville race, which was close to even at 50.9%. And for you Denny Hamlin fans, it ranked 27th of 29th when he wins. Moving on to our race progression graphs, and for those paying attention, you saw we got an upgrade to the graphs already as it became animated and showed progress through the stages. Now Joel's provided an upgrade to the upgrade that is much more detailed and breaks it down by every 10 laps. What I really love about this upgrade is it will reveal to us those pivotal moments in the race, like that unbelievably late caution NASCAR put out in Stage 2 for Brad Keselowski's loose wheel. Check these out, starting with the race-winning team of Denny Hamlin and his Joe Gibbs Racing teammates. And you can see right when Keselowski's caution happened on lap 139, because as I mentioned in Monday's video, it flipped the field. The JGR cars really benefited from it, including Ty Gibbs, who had been running in the 30s before that and finished 9th for his first top 10 of the season. Again, pay attention to all these graphs and what happened on lap 139 with the Keselowski caution. Here's HMS, and as you can see, William Byron was dominant leading those first 243 laps, but that caution helped Chase Elliott and Alex Bowman. Unfortunately for Kyle Larson, he was beyond any help after that crash on lap 4. Next up, Austin Cindric was the lone Team Penske car adversely affected by the caution, but you can see Ryan Blaney had a super fast car and had to overcome numerous issues on pit road, but still finished 5th. Josh Berry had a good day going until that contact with Tyler Reddick sent him plummeting. We have to talk about Keselowski's RFK Racing team, and you can see the 2012 champ was running inside the top 10, and his caution obviously affected him and his teammates. He never recovered and finished 33rd. And our last one is Richard Childress Racing, and you can see how the caution changed the trajectory of all three drivers, Austin Hill benefiting, while Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon dropped. Busch, to his credit, recovered and finished 10th. And now it's time for our last 5 races analysis, and we have some changes at the top. Denny Hamlin was 6th last week with an average finishing position of 10.8. This week, with his 21st place finish at COTA dropping out of the last 5, coupled with his back-to-back wins at Darlington and Martinsville the week before, and the JGR driver slots in at the top at 6.8 over his last 5. William Byron, who was tied for second with teammate Chase Elliott last week at 9.2, holds down the second spot by himself at that same 9.2 with 3 finishes inside the top 10. He's followed by Christopher Bell, who was at the top of last week's number with an AFP of 9.0, but has dropped to 3rd and 9.4, with 3 finishes inside the top 5. Elliott comes in 4th at 10 even, with 4 out of his last 5 inside the top 10, and he's followed by Chris Buescher at 10.8, with 3 finishes inside the top 10 in his last 5. Rounding out the top 10 are Kyle Larson, Ross Chastain and Ryan Preece are tied at 12 even, Joey Logano at 12.6, and Tyler Reddick at 14 even. Others of note are Ty Gibbs, who last week was 29th with an AFP of 23.8, has shot up the chart and is now 20th overall with an AFP of 18.8. His last 2 races at Martinsville and Darlington boosting his numbers. Ryan Blaney improved his AFP in his last 5 from 25.8 last week to 23 this week, while Brad Keselowski dropped from 22.2 to 25.8 with his 33rd place finish. Those are some painful numbers for the number 6 team. And take a look at who's coming in at the bottom. Carson Hocevar started strong this season, finishing 2nd at Atlanta and 13th at COTA. Since then, it's been a struggle for the number 77 driver, with 4 out of his last 5 finishes being 30th or worse. Ouch. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode. I want to hear what you thought about it. First, what did you think of Pete Pistone's comments on Chase Elliott? Agree or disagree that he's the Eeyore of NASCAR? What about Denny Hamlin's remarks on Fox's audio issues? Have you experienced something similar? I really want to know because I haven't. And we had a couple stories from the Dell Jr. download. the record-breaking charter sale price at $45 million, and Junior's legal issue with Lamar Jackson. Let me know what you thought about those, and specifically your theories on why Teresa Earnhardt let the number 8 trademark go. Finally, tell me what you thought about our By the Numbers segment, including Jeff Gluck's Good Race poll. How did you vote in this week's poll? Thanks as always for checking out the latest video and supporting the channel. I really, really appreciate it, and hope you have a great rest of your day.